So, I watched Look Back. There's very few movies that I've seen and cried to. Even though I'm pretty emotionally in touch with myself, it's tough to crack me with just a movie. But Fujimoto, the same man who can write music so good it makes the Beatles bow down to him, hard, and the same man who can levitate. This man wrote a story that made me cry. With the help of the amazing artists behind Studio Durian, a newer studio with their first ever production being this movie. Haruka Nakamura composing the soundtrack, who has collaborated with Nujabes, Aima, and Ichigo Aoba, only having their solo debut in 2023 on the Trigun Stampede soundtrack. And the amazing voice actors behind Fujino and Kyomoto, Yumi Kawai and Mitsuki Yoshida, both making their anime debut. And despite the amount of debut appearances, this combination of artists from all of these mediums have created a piece I can only describe as flawless. So what makes Look Back this good? First off, I'm going to do a brief rundown of the movie because I'm not doing an entire video explaining the movie and that be it. I'm just not doing that. So, Fujino thinks she's the best manga artist in her school. Turns out, she is not. And instead, a girl who doesn't even attend school is better than her. What a nightmare. She then does everything she can to be better than her, but after all her efforts, she gives up, realizing that she can't be better. Time goes on until they graduate, and Fujino is tasked with giving the girl who draws better than her graduation diploma. She reluctantly does so, and as soon as she enters her house, that definitely needs a lock on the door, she realizes she was competing with a person with way too much time on their hands. Couldn't be me. Fujino then draws a comic about her needing to go outside. It accidentally goes under her door, which she regrets, but then it turns into a moment which would change both of their lives forever, as the girl opens the door to see Fujino, her inspiration. Kyomoto, the other girl, even wants her autograph, and Fujino realizes she's kind of the goat. One silly yet amazingly animated running sequence later, she's back, and now with a friend who works with them. They both then submit a manga to a manga competition. They go find out if they One Piece, and they won, winning 100,000 yen, also known as 500 quid. Class. They do more and more together until they get a chance to have a full-on continuing series. But as it turns out, Kyomoto wants to go to an art school rather than making a manga all the time. Breakup scene. They then split off, with Fujino making Shark Kick. And Kyomoto goes to art school, and the story ends happily ever after. Video's over, job's done, nothing else happens. I'll talk about the ending in a bit, but me describing that story probably sounds bang average on the surface, doesn't it? But it's the execution in every department that delivers more than anticipated. And to emphasize, with many working on this being their anime debut, the storytelling, music, voice acting, and animation all culminate into this incredible piece of art that is genuinely unbelievable. But could I perhaps have a bit of bias from my own personal life? Well, I was an artist kid when I was younger, got upset when someone was better than me, acted like Fujino as a kid in all the stupid silly ways, have a brother who is a karate black belt, and with what I talk about later relating to the G word, this felt like an attack. I think regardless, it's supposed to relate to artists or creatives, and if not creatives, it's a coming of age story that's very relatable, whether you relate to Fujino or Kyomoto or this guy. But yeah, I believe nevertheless, this movie is a hit regardless of age, gender, or anything of that matter. It's beautiful. Right, finally, let's talk about the ending. Fujino continues to make Shark Kick. It's the usual day for her. Same routine, same everything. But then, all of a sudden, news breaks. The art school Kyomoto was attending was attacked. And in the end, Kyomoto was killed. This, after everything that just happened before this, was heartbreaking to see. After seeing so much growth within Kyomoto, this being the end result was just so sad. Fujino, after hearing about this, blames herself for everything that happened to Kyomoto, thinking that she's the cause, as she got her out of her room, which inevitably led to her death. She tears up the comic, that was the reason she came out of her room and she broke down. Even for a coming of age story, this felt too real for me. I won't go too in depth on myself here, but to put this in perspective, the same year as me watching Look Back, my dad passed away. He was an artist in his own right, making music, and was who I looked up to the most in that regard. I tried to be as unique, as excellent, and attempt to be as great as him. I remember one of the days he said how great it was that a video of mine hit 10,000 views on my old channel, and how proud he was. When I made videos from there, I almost began to isolate myself to figure out how I could be the best, doing everything I could to have that feeling again. But in my head, I look back and hate myself for not doing more with him. Why didn't I stop more for a child? Why was I like that? I did have plenty of solo moments with him, but my main regrets come from me working on myself, which is really dumb. I blamed myself for not being a better son in his last year, and even at his hospital bed alone, all I had in my head was apologies for the smallest of things. These stupid moments of self-hatred tried to take over, and it took me a bit to understand why I was the way I was prior to his death. And the answer was simple. I just wanted to be like him. There was no valid reason to blame myself. Life can be cruel to the best people. That's just how life goes. And it's a very human response to blame yourself in this manner. What plays out next is this alternate universe which Fujino saves Kyomoto. Now, how I perceived all of this was that Fujino imagined a scenario which Kyomoto doesn't leave her room, and she also saves her in the end. And what blows under the door is Kyomoto's comic strip, which would be of that scenario. Almost like the ghost of Kyomoto pushed it through. This comic feels like a comic Kyomoto wrote when she was younger that was just for herself, which is just like a dramatized version of Fujino saving her from staying in her room. Saving her from being alone, her anxieties, getting her out of having a lonely, depressing life, having a friend, which not only shows that Fujino made her life so much better, but helps save Fujino from blaming herself anymore. I always imagined better versions of painful scenarios, ones where things go well, especially during certain stages of grief. So this just all made sense to me. We all wish for better. Oh, the multiverse is real! The movie ends in a similar position to how it opened, with the comic placed above her desk and her continuing on her next manga. Man, I was sat in the cinema and completely awestruck at what I just witnessed. I genuinely couldn't believe it. What an incredible story. Such an incredible story, in fact, that I decided to see what wasn't in the movie and see what was exclusive to the manga, which there wasn't much aside from one major thing. In the manga, the first and last pages link to each other, with the first saying don't, and the last saying in anger. Don't look back in anger. To me, this seems like an obvious reference to the Oasis song of the same name, and on the surface seems just like a nice little nod to it. But the meaning behind the song is what makes this more real and hard-hitting. It's not about what the song originally meant to Oasis. It's more about what it had come to be known for. Don't Look Back in Anger was a song used pretty much as an unofficial anthem in Manchester, after a terrorist attack happened at an Ariana Grande concert in 2017. The reason for this being the case was simple. Not only are Oasis Manchester's biggest band, but this song looks forward to the future rather than looking back to the past. The people will not be dragged down to the level of terrorists. The attack that happens in the story isn't a reference to this attack though, but instead being a reference to the arson attack in 2019, which burnt down Kyoto Animation Studio 1 building, killing 36 people. The manga also released on the anniversary of this happening. It's tragic how life can be taken so quickly, so unexpectedly. It's a harsh, cruel world out there. But as people, born to inevitably grieve or lose, we will not be dragged down. We will not look back in anger. And we will continue to keep moving forward, keeping those loved ones we lost in our hearts and memories. The way the movie ends intends to feel bittersweet, while emphasizing how important it is to not let grief consume you, and to continue going onward while not forgetting about the past. It's a tragic love letter to both art and life itself. a movie that will stand the test of time, that all artists should see, and to me, it is the best movie of 2024. Man, I love Fujimoto!
When I say